let's get her going here on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Leaf Hour edition. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jake Schultz. Toronto Maple Leafs. Did Derek just say something? Derek,
I never know.
We good? General.
Nick.
Oh, General Nick.
Yeah. Although we should call her
You
General
know
Jen.
how I feel about this.
When Jake Schultz says to me yesterday after the show when I went up to thank him to say, I'll see you tomorrow, buddy, I usually mean it's going to be him tomorrow. So that's usually what I go off of. So
no Jake the Snake Schultz
I don't know
today.
if he got a cold or he just decided not to come in today, but he definitely told me he was going to be here today. So anyways.
5 seconds into the show and I drive it in the ditch thanks to Sammy.
This is how we start at least 2 shows a week, I feel like, with this conversation.
I never know.
Well, wherever you
I'm just
are.
going to put both of them on the lineup every day, and you can choose who it is. Choose your own adventure, like a Goosebumps novel.
Wherever you are rolling your eyes right now on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus, we're glad you are with us. The Toronto Maple Leafs became just the 3rd team in the National Hockey League to win 30 games with their 5-3 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Wouldn't call it a dominant 60 minutes by the Leafs, but like many games that we've seen this year, they find a way to get the job done.
Yeah, 25 regulation wins. I think last year they had like 33 when it was all said and done or something to that effect anyway. So humming along at a pretty good clip. Fun hockey lately. Really enjoyed that game, was it not?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. A lot of skill. Just a lot of really good players. And you're going to see a lot of those players in the Four Nations face-off coming up here pretty soon, but I had just a lot of skill on display.
When you're up against that Tampa Bay Lightning team and they turn it on and you try to pack it in a little bit, it's scary.
Yeah.
You know, point goes bar down on the backhand there. Nick Paul does his usual things against the Leafs. That was a high-stress finish.
All right, let's go to Craig Berube. We'll kick the Kyper's Clipper off early here and get his vibe on last night, and then we'll follow up with ours.
First period was really good, I thought. We came out, had the right mindset in the game. I thought we played a real good first. You know, they made a push in the second. They had some, rush chances against us, but Wool was good. Overall, I liked our game. I thought that's a good team over there, a real good team, and I thought we did a good job. We were down a couple forwards for the third period, so there was basically down to 3 lines. But, I thought we checked well, did a lot of good things. Power play got us a big goal. That was a big goal. Pretty solid effort from our team.
The one thing that was missing in that brief 3-game losing streak was an overall energy out of the hockey club.
Yes,
and
totally agree.
They've got it back.
Yeah.
And, was it a clean game last night? No. Did they give up a few rush chances, as we heard from the coach in the second period? Yes, but Wall was there for them. But the one thing, as we have mentioned time and time again over the course of this season, is it's not an easy system to play. You have to be on top of it. If you're going to get pucks in deep, you got to get on top of them real early. Nyes is on them early. Their bottom 6 is on it a lot better. Less easy accesses out for their opponents, and it just seems like they've got that step back.
Yeah, Matthew Nyes, now up to 18 goals. I was trying to think, we talk about left wingers and their deficiency there. When he's like this, when he's back from injury, he's looking really good. This is a very important piece for them. I think last year, how many goals Bertuzzi get last year? Maybe 20?
A little over 20, I think.
I think he snuck 20 in.
Yeah, I think it might have been flat, 2021. So for Nyes to be on pace for 30 is a nice upgrade of the position. And Bobby McMahon looking like a guy who's going to be in the mid-20s or high 20s. Those are positive steps for them. And then I would say the biggest thing when you talk about energy is right now their best players are awesome.
Yeah.
Like Matthews looks like he has that pop back. Nylander is playing well again. Marner has continued his hot play up to 4th in the NHL in points. So when they're great, those 3 guys, we know they can beat anyone at any given night.
So is that the biggest difference for you between the 3-game losing streak into the 3-game winning streak? Just the energy? How does that flip? It's just the top guys?
No, it's everybody.
Okay.
They need to be a hard forechecking team, first and foremost for me. They aren't. I get it that you've got game breakers and Matthews and Marner who can love to go 100 feet, 150 feet, and can beat guys one-on-one and beat a goalie one-on-one. But their overall team look, for me, has to be on top of their forecheck and sustaining that type of pressure. When you get easy outs on them off their forecheck, like they did during last week, then they can lose to anybody. But for me, it's that's the look that Berube wants. I know those rush chances are fun, and they're great when Willie finds 100 feet to skate and shoot it in the net.
Every game, you mean?
Yeah, every game until April, because that stuff kind of dries out, and it's more of the stuff that I'm talking about that I see that will come back into play in April.
I mean, Willie did score the biggest goal of that series in Game 6 on a breakaway off a pass from Matthew Nyes back in.
There's less of it, though.
Yeah,
There's no
for sure.
doubt it's not as
But they're
open,
still there.
open season.
They're still there.
It's not like we've seen in the past
No,
week.
of course, but like you still have the opportunity in the playoffs to get a breakaway. It's not like they're playing with broomsticks.
Yeah. No, it's, he is uniquely special at his ability to read the play, take the chance, be on his way. Well, we've been talking about it a lot lately, but I thought pretty cool that Willie dropped the old, here, let's just listen to William Nylander, clip 1 from Willie on the 3-game winning streak.
I mean, he's really good at like cheating for offense. Like, I mean that in the best way possible.
Willie, clip 1. There's an actual one from Willie.
You were asking about a 3-game losing streak not long ago. What should we think about a 3-game winning streak now in this team?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, nothing. Means no big deal. Whatever. He's just. I believe they call that a callback in comedy.
Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, listen. Whatever happens from here on in, we're always going to go back to that clip.
Yeah.
Like that thing is.
It's not a big deal?
Sorry?
It's not a big deal?
What's the big
No,
deal?
no,
really?
it's
a big deal, really.
It's stuck with him forever. So any winning streak or losing streak, that one will be one that will come up time and time again.
But you talk about how people view him favorably, and this is, or generously maybe, this is a great example of how you earn that, is that he goes out there and says something that should be insane to say in Toronto in the midst of a 3-game winning streak. He goes out, he scores, and then he scores in 3 games, 4 times.
It's only been 3 games.
And he says, we only won 3 in a row. It's the perfect, Willie. It's perfect.
And there's a level of acceptance there that other people would dream to have.
Yeah.
But you're not.
He answered the bell, though,
You don't
Kip, after he
skate.
said
You
it.
don't skate like him. You don't finish breakaways like him. He's a special talent,
That's
which
right.
allows you to take a chance on saying that.
Yeah.
It's big time. It is.
That's big time.
Like to say that in the Toronto media
Yeah.
and then to go out and have a,
I know.
3-game point streak,
But-
winning goals.
It's gonna.
It's big time.
The judgment day isn't, guys, January, February.
course,
It'll be April and May. That's
Yes.
all. Like,
But you can say that about literally anything with the Leafs. That's always what we go back to is like,
Well,
when you're in the day-to-day of it, we always say it's about
But
the
nobody's
playoffs.
got the stones to say that at any point. Is what I'm trying to say,
It could be,
right?
if you went out there and said, what's the big deal really? And you lose 3 more and get blanked and get benched, it could be the start of the end of your career here.
And then he'll say,
Yeah.
"What's the big deal? It's only 5 or 6."
I mean,
But he's got that. I know we talked about Craig Berube mentioning that he may have lost his confidence. Like, can a guy like that who truly knows what he can do on any given shift like that really lose his confidence?
I mean, you would think not, but apparently it happens. The idea, Berube loves this guy. Like, you talked about how you thought after they asked him about Willie and he said something like breakaway man.
we have
like
it.
he's like,
Play the clip. Clip 5, Berube on William Nylander, Derek.
Tonight, another breakaway goal, a couple other breakaways. Again, doing Willie.
Oh,
Yeah.
breakaway man.
When he asked him what you actually talk about, he said that you talk about whatever when you talk about him. His ability to get those breakaways, it seems uncanny, certainly the past 2
Well,
months.
he reads the play really well and, slashes out well on those plays. And then, a lot of times, like that last one, he just wins a puck battle. And, his ability with his stick and his feet are high end. And some of the things I see him do are pretty incredible. Yeah.
Like they said, he gets another on a breakaway, and Berube goes, "Who?" Like knows exactly. He's just like grinning, like he's just he loves him. I'm telling you,
The breakaway man. It's the nickname.
Breakaway man.
It's not a great
the
nickname.
world's worst nickname. I love it.
Yeah. You're at a loss for words.
No, I'm not lost for words.
They've got like
I'm not.
Willie has got
I'm not.
literally like the gruffest, toughest guy, one of the history of the NHL. Be like, oh, the breakaway
Just
man.
eating out of the
He
palm of
loves
his
it.
hand.
How did this happen?
Hey, I just hope.
Begged for
I just
more
hope
ice
in
time. Worked.
April, May
Yeah.
that everybody's sitting there going, the breakaway man's at it again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether or not, like when things get tightened up, will he pull back from that? Will he read it correctly? Will he be in a position to say when to go, when to not go? Because that part of the game isn't for everybody, and he seems to be better than anybody else.
Of course.
But I imagine that, like Connor McDavid, who is faster than Willie,
Oh yeah.
I'd say.
right? I didn't see him getting too many of those constant breakaways on their quest to a Stanley Cup final.
No.
So it's just a matter of how smart will he be when the chips are down.
Connor just has the puck way more, right?
Yeah.
Like he's starting and finishing things as opposed to Willie, who plays a different wing role.
Yeah, odd rush goals this season. Second best in the league, has 8, and Willie's got 13. So
Yeah.
he's it's definitely a clear way he's getting his offense this season.
The big line,
Unreal.
8 points.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Nyes, but Mitch Marner still getting the points comfortably in a top 5 now in scoring. What did you have him at, 4 or 3?
It's a 4th, yeah.
4th.
Yeah.
And Austin Matthews now, since returning, is on a 65 or 70 goal pace.
Yeah, he's got 8
Yeah.
goals in 9 games or
Yeah.
something like that.
So he's back to
yeah.
being that real threat every time he's on the ice.
Yeah, you can, like to me, that's always been like the sign of his, when he's skating through the neutral zone and he kind of picks up speed and he's looking shifty and could shoot it by a goalie, you're like, all right, that's a guy feeling better. I think he had some comments about feeling better, coming around a little bit in terms of steady progress, he said, with his injury. So that's.
Can I ask both of you guys a question? Did you see this coming?
This seems like the least likely outcome when we were talking about him 3 weeks ago.
Like,
What's that?
Like, did you think
That he would just
be
kinda figure it out
as
and be
quickly
good.
as this has happened from what we were talking about with his injury concerns and LTIR conversations, for it to flip to him just being normal Matthews within 2 or 3
Well, you
weeks?
didn't
is
expect
surprising.
him to at any point not be like this.
What are you talking about? Yeah, we talked about him LTIRing him from
And
playoffs.
The comments that he made to the
No.
media where he's like, oh,
No,
I
but
don't know.
not
We'll just-
seriously.
We'll
Not
see.
seriously.
Not seriously,
We were
but
joking. We
well,
were just
no,
like
we
throwing
had-
it tongue in cheek. We expected him to come back and whatever the 9 games were, and then the additional 6 to come back and be who he
I don't
always
know
was.
what planet. No, what?
Yeah.
No, I did not expect him to come back and be himself.
What were you resting him for? What were you?
I was expecting him to come back and look like he did when he came back the time before,
That's
which we
right.
sat here and said, boy, nothing changed and he doesn't have it. What's going on? Why is it not getting better? He looks like the same guy.
Yeah. But I
mean-
didn't expect him to be bad all year.
Sure you did.
No, I did not. No, absolutely not.
We considered every option for this guy except he's going to come back and be Austin Matthews again, I think.
Yeah, we did have a lot of different conversations.
Yeah. No, I expected him to eventually be good again. I mean, we're not talking about anything specific. We weren't talking about a broken this, ligaments here.
But that was worse.
It
He was
was
going
like-
to Germany for undisclosed.
But he call it soreness, call it just not right. But, it was like, it's just when he was physically and mentally ready, you expect him to be back.
Geez, I don't know, man. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
that's great. Then I think we had a miscommunication at the time because
Yeah.
my impression was We had no idea what it was. That
Yeah.
was worse than having some clearly defined timeline, and I expected
there's
him to
always-
have a nagging something all year.
But there was always the chance that, that he could never feel better again. But I don't think that their strategy and, we had Sammy all season calling them liars and this and that. And all I've been telling them is that, they don't know. Nobody knows. So when you have that, you got to sore back. You don't feel right. Eventually it should go away. People heal. Where was the thought that he'd never come back this year?
Well, we were thinking that he was. I mean, I was worried that he was going
I'd like to clear up that we is the collective three of us, because there was none of this out of you.
I questioned what the hell was going on with him.
Right.
But I never thought that he'd not show up all year and look like a $13 million player.
I think we were worried too about the pushing it to get ready for the Four Nations face-off. That's definitely a conversation we had where that he has to show that he's ready to play and that he's looking like himself before the Leafs are like, yes, go ahead.
We did have that conversation. We said
every day
if
for
he
2
comes
weeks.
back, there's plenty of time to still look good and play in this tournament. We had that conversation.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that we didn't.
No, of course.
we're
There was
not
plenty
telling-
of time. So I don't know where the big surprise is that he's starting to look like himself again.
Well, yeah, I when someone comes back and says they're able to play, they went to Germany, they come back and just looked not right. Nothing changed in my perspective for him to suddenly get right. I'm glad that it happened. It felt like the wear and tear of a season was going to be the worst possible scenario to get right. But one thing we did say the first time he came back is that he looked a little out of shape. He was trying to find his legs, get in game shape. Matthews himself had some comment recently about how that's actually helped him find his legs, get in game shape, playing every other day, finding a routine. So it's a big development for them, because without him, when it's a team built on 4 players being great, without him, you're not winning a cup.
Yeah.
So this is like, okay, the best case scenario is back on, which is very encouraging
And were you
for the Leafs.
Were you as excited as Amazon and Prime about his Michigan attempt? Did you like it?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you have more fatigue of, Kyper? Goalie goals or the Michigan?
No, I mean,
He created a great opportunity from nothing. That's an excellent play.
I think the sign is that he's starting to feel comfortable enough to want to try something like that. So I think it stems to maybe how better he feels now,
I thought it was amazing.
right?
I mean,
When you slow it down,
talent aside, that's a great offensive play. He's on his own down there.
it's a hell of a save too.
It is like it's a legitimate. It almost goes in.
I cannot fathom how good at hockey you have to be to have that thought process when you see a rolling puck there, pick it up in your
Gosh,
stick,
you
get it
just
around the
scooped
net. Like, okay,
Yeah.
think about it. And then Nick Paul kind of let up on him a little bit there. Like when he was coming around the net, I thought he could have hit him way harder, let up a little bit. But yeah, it was an amazing attempt. But I mean,
He said he stopped trying it a couple
Yeah.
years ago. I guess it's
Yeah.
been a couple years
we have a
between
clip of him
attempts.
talking about it if you
Oh,
care
sure.
about it.
Yeah, let's have it.
About the Michigan. Clip 2.
Oh, you know what? I just I didn't see any other option, I guess. Like the puck was rolling. It was the beginning of the period, so the tape was fresh. So I don't know. I almost had it. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of quit attempting those a couple years ago, but I just thought that was a reasonable attempt, and had a pretty good opportunity there, and almost went on.
He does love the stuff play, right? He loves coming around the net and trying to jam it in.
I love that play when he comes swooping around and rips it low on the ice, and if somebody in front kicks it out. But
Yeah.
Sometimes.
yeah, I like it.
Creates a little drama inside the crease.
Yep.
The one thing watching last night I did envision is these two teams playing in a Stanley Cup playoff. And for sure, if it was to start tomorrow, you'd make the Leafs maybe a heavy favorite. But Tampa's dangerous, boys.
Yeah. No,
They're dangerous.
as someone rooting for the Leafs to have success, I do not want them to see Tampa anytime soon. Ideally not round 1.
I mean, the Leafs own them for 3 years.
All right,
here now.
listen, I know. And that's why I would have them favorites.
Mhm.
And right now, you like Joseph Wall over Vasilevsky?
I think that'd be I mean, when
You do.
when Vasilevsky's playing against the Leafs, I like Joe Wall.
You probably favor their blue line.
Leafs, yeah.
But
Probably.
when Tampa Bay starts snapping it around, the two best players on the ice for me last night, no questions, bar none, Mitch Marner and Braden Point.
I
Braden
didn't
Point.
think Marner had a great night last
No,
night.
I think he had a really good
Bunch
night.
of pizzas.
Yeah.
But I felt like the back end of that that Lightning D is actually not. I didn't think it was great, but you like Radish, okay? Obviously,
like
Hedman and
Radish.
McDonough are legit. That Perbix has kind of become all right.
Yeah,
They're better.
they're leaky. They're
Yeah.
just leaky.
Yeah.
Like giving up goals at the last minute and getting themselves in a game and then taking themselves out of a game. They're nowhere near, and there's a little bit of fatigue, I think, going on.
Kucherov has moments too where they just he's
in it.
obviously amazing.
He
but
was
they're-
not good last night.
No.
He was not good last night. Braden Point was, but it wasn't enough. But that guy's scary. He's just scary, and he's a world-class passer too.
Yes.
He like you could see as off as he was last night, he's still one or two like
Oh, you don't want him
shifts
to have
from
the puck.
from and they didn't have one good opportunity to tie the game up last night. They had two. Braden
Mm-hmm.
Point's backhand, I think, that dropped on the goal line, and then Victor Hedman had the tying goal. He had
Yeah, what did it
4-4.
skip on him or something?
No,
He missed that backdoor
it
tap
blew
in.
up.
Yeah.
He had a tap in empty netter to tie the score up. I think it was off a Kucherov pass,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, and it just exploded on him.
And the play Kucherov makes, I don't know what point it was, but he Point passes it to him, and then in stride, Point goes behind him, and he does this like backhand behind the back on his stick, takes it to the net. I'm like, they are a terrifying team. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think they're a team on the decline. Like, I think they're underrated as like a true cup contender. I think they have a lot of good players. But in this matchup, the Leafs have just done really well. Like, of all the teams that like are quote unquote good that I would like to see in the playoffs, I don't go into a series against Tampa being like, oh my God, we have no chance.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the Bruins or it's not like the Florida Panthers.
No, when they were really dangerous, their fourth line there was it was Maroon, Perry, and Belmar, was it?
Yes.
They were a very good fourth line there. Bottom six right now is Gergensons, Geeky, Chafee, Isamont, Glendening, Atkinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
not.
not.
But you have to think,
Gergenson's 0 goals through 45 games this year.
you'll have to think though that they're
doing something.
they'll be getting somebody good. Cupboards are a little bare.
Exactly.
Who?
Like
Cupboards, cupboards are a
over
little
the
bare.
years, the
Yeah.
draft picks, the first rounders, the prospects, they've gone hard the last few years, including their Stanley Cups, and you just wonder if it's just not their time anymore.
Should we get some updates on players for the Leafs? Or
Just one more thing on that. Trading an entire draft class for Tanner Jeannot probably wasn't the best idea for them.
first, a
one's-
second, a
That
third,
one
a fourth,
stung a little bit.
And on the list of guys I'm really excited to cheer for on Team Canada, Braden Point is extremely near the top.
Oh my God, he's so good.
He is
He
so
does it all. He's got
good.
27 goals
I
this
think-
year.
He had it on a string last night.
Yeah.
We talk about you always love to say that Barkov's underrated. Braden Point's way more underrated than Barkov is. Like, I think Braden Point's like
Not
legit-
around the league though.
Yes, for sure.
I don't-
Barkov
I'm
gets
not
the
sure.
Barkov gets a ton of credit. I think Braden Point's actually underrated. He's phenomenal. One of my favorite guys to watch in the league. Canadian hockey personified to me. Anyways, what are you saying?
I was going to say that Braden Point always looks to me like a guy who used to have a mustache or a beard and then just shaved it, and he just looks slightly off to me at all times. That's my point.
He
Observation
looks like he
for
could
the
have
day.
played on your father-in-law's Islander team.
Yeah, there's something about him. I don't know. He looks like an old school
Hey,
dude. I
your-
don't know.
Your dad's team for sure. He could have been an easy 80s player
Yeah.
right there with Butch Goring.
Yeah, I love that. That's
You know?
for sure.
All right, let's get an update a little bit on who's out of the lineup these days for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Clip 7.
He's day-to-day right now up the body,
Dealer.
so he won't be in the game tomorrow.
Any timeline for John Tavares for coming back to skate?
No, he hasn't been on the ice yet, so hopefully that'll happen soon. Get him on the ice and get him going. See how he feels. So I really don't have a timeline for you with that one right now.
And Max, that's right.
Yeah, he won't play tomorrow.
Oh, those are
Day-to-day
great updates.
situation
There you go.
too.
I mean, it's 3 players. on the
Short
Leafs.
and to the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tavares is still
Yeah. Not even
TBD.
skating yet.
Stolarz is skating.
Yeah, we have a Stolarz update too if you want to
Let's
let.
have that
Clip
one.
8. Clip 8.
Clip 8 on Stoll.
Well, he's on the ice, moving around, doing things. You know, I think next week might get more active in the net. You know, start moving, going up and down and things like that. So we got to take it day to day here and see. It's all about how he feels and where he's at with his movements. So, but he's on track. So.
All right.
Doing stuff.
It's better than like
I'm actually happy he's doing stuff.
It's better than being on the ice and not doing stuff.
Yeah, you'd hate to get out there. He's on the ice, but he's not doing
Not
stuff yet.
doing anything. Not doing anything.
Just being
Just
physically
wanted
on
to
the
see
ice.
if he could put his skates on.
Step 1. So he's doing stuff. That's good. We got progress
And
there.
people like media are still asking about Hakanpää.
Let's do it. Clip 9, Yanni Hakanpää.
You know, he looked like he was moving well, and again, that's a feel thing for him and where he's at. And, you know, I'm hoping that he can keep practicing with us and not have to take 2 days off and, you know, again, no, but that's about how he feels, right? But we need to get some consistency there in practice and get him going.
Ugh.
Why do they get him out of here? No disrespect to the guy who's an awesome guy by all accounts, but like he can't practice without taking 2 days off?
They just
It ain't working. I'm
they're
sorry.
just
I feel for
so like what is it? They're so like it just looks like you're really desperate for the guy.
Yeah.
But are you?
Well, that's the thing is like if
are
he's
you-
healthy, are you sure that he's even in your 6?
Who's he taking out of the lineup? Like if he can't practice 3 days in a row without his knee blowing up.
It's Timmins. It's Timmins who's
Well,
taking it.
or like when Myers, like
Yeah,
it might
yeah.
be a partner for Rielly in the fantasy world scenario.
So can we go back to the Tavares thing? I'm going to ask you guys a question. You mentioned the power play
Yeah,
without Tavares, the power play without Matthews.
yeah.
I think if you're Mark Savard, you got to be taking note of that. That when one of the guys who has the puck a lot goes out, it starts to look a little bit better. I mean, it was again last night where they're snapping it around great. Seemed like everybody had a role. I don't know.
I thought last night it looked good.
There's something to it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it yesterday, and
Yes.
it's watching it last night. I'm like, there is something to this.
Listen, tons of credit for John Tavares being a pro and having the year that he's having under the circumstances. But you know, if they found a way to, they would have found a way this summer to get that $11 million out in that space. You know, whatever it could be, even if they had to eat some of it. If you had $6 or $7 or $8 million right now, it looked pretty good right now.
You know, it's tough too, Kip. He scored 20 times already this year.
Yeah.
You know, you got to find those goals somewhere.
I know. But they found him this week
Well, he
without
was
him.
fantastic when Matthews was out
Right.
for a huge stretch of the season.
No,
They
I
needed
know.
that.
I
They
know.
needed that.
I'm just saying though that you know, one of the things that they're challenged with many other teams is how do you get better against a cap that's still pushing up against many contending teams. But yeah, it's just they're a pretty good team without him now.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough spot, right? Because he's an important player for them and a good player for them, and all those nice things. But in a cap world, you're always judged against value. Are you giving value on the dollars they're spending on you? Really tough to give value on $11 million. You have to be exceptional.
I'll just go ahead and say it that they're good with him too.
Yeah,
And he was really good for the whole year. Like he was having maybe he's one of his best years as a Leaf until he got hurt. He was really good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just like they're a good team. When Matthews went out, they're great. When he went out, they're great. Like it's just
Well, this has to, like, you know, you were one of them. Many about these four guys cannot come back. You can't win with them. And, you know, it's still unproven whether you can, but they're clearly going to have another crack at it.
yeah.
Any,
Right?
Boy, are we?
And you definitely do feel better about the core four now than you ever have before.
Not true. I don't think.
Well, then what are you telling me that
I
they're
think-
a really good team with him still there?
Because they've been a really good team for 8 years. They just can't get over the hump. Like they've been an excellent regular season team. This
Okay,
is
then
it's
that's all
never
I
the
have to
regular.
say.
It's not the regular season we
Okay.
talk about. It's the playoffs.
All right.
Anyways,
That's what I'm talking about. If you had a different salary cap right now to maybe change it up a little bit. That's
yeah,
all.
but you don't.
you know.
What? Any update on Marner contract? They talking? You hearing anything?
I have no idea. No idea.
None.
Does that worry you? Does that concern you? Or I thought we were in the position of you get knocked out in the first round, he's gone, and if he goes deep, he can get his contract, and everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah, that is. Just curious if you would think they would try to sign the guy who's going to finish with 114 points this year or whatever. You think you'd make an effort at it.
But why? Because you're scared he'll leave?
Yes.
No, not scared so much he'll leave, just scared that I can't replace him. It's like I don't know where you get those points. So I feel the same with Tavares. It's like
if you can't replace him, then you're scared that he may leave.
Sure, if that's how you'd like it to sound.
Yeah. But you hold him at true value, or is he pulling a Tavares on the Islanders? I want to be here, but I don't want to be here.
What are you asking me?
Has he said that he wants to be here? Yeah, he did,
Yeah.
right?
You still believe he wants to be here and sign here?
I do believe
because that's what he said, and I'm just comparing it to Tavares, who told the Islanders that 7 years ago.
Yeah, no, I believe that Marner wants to be here and wants to sign.
So I don't know about needing to sign him now. Then.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean,
it's just remarkably quiet about it.
It saves it. Yeah, it's a big player who is we're just kind of going through the year to UFA, and I think for the Leafs, it does make it easier for them. It's like it either works and we move on, or it doesn't and we don't. And then it's the same thing where you have all that salary cap space and you figure it out from there. But like Sammy said, good player, gets lots of points. And
the nightmare scenario is you go deep and he's excellent and he still leaves.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's at the peak of his powers, he finally breaks through and you can't get him under contract. That's when the true nightmare scenario comes in.
He wants to be here.
Are you surprised he's having this type of season under a year where he's not sure about, nobody's sure whether or not he's going to leave or not?
Not in the slightest. This is a contract year. He's been this player for the past few years. It's kind of the same year, right? He's on pace for, 20 goals and a ton of points.
Go different ways for different guys, though.
Yeah. Whether we saw Willie lit it up. It's these guys. It's contract.
I just think he's really good.
Yeah.
He's just really good. And
this is
puck enters the net a lot.
Year. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Take a quick break.
I got a tweet. I don't want to know if this is true or not. This is from Jack Frost on Twitter. It seems to me over the last couple of days, the boys on Real Kyper and Bourne seem to be really getting under each other's skin. Call me crazy. But that's what it seems like to me. You think that's true, boys?
I don't at all.
Neither do I.
I would say we're equally as much under each other's skin as always.
We're doing okay.
Like, is this your first day listening to the show?
JB brings me chocolates every once in a while, every day.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we're all good, boys.
Yeah. Kip and I are.
If we're gonna get it,
here we go.
Kip and I are best friends.
If we get it, Sammy does tend to interrupt a little bit too much, from what I can see on the internet.
You're reading the comments, eh?
We'll have to do the Marchand. Kip and I are best friends. We'll send you photos of us hanging out.
We'll settle it all up during the commercial break here. When we return, Luke Fox. Here's one guy we don't get along with from Sportsnet.ca. We'll get Luke's thoughts on the Leafs and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Welcome back to the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, and Sammy McKee. Jen Rolnick in for Jake Schultz. I found that out right at the beginning of the show.
Better late than never.
All right. The one thing that's true, Luke Fox is joining us from Sportsnet.ca. He didn't cancel out on you, did he?
I hope he's there. Is he there?
I don't know.
Luke?
I'm here.
Hello.
Hey, hi,
Hello,
Luke.
Luke. What's going on?
Not much. Just covering a winning hockey team again.
Oh, man. And that's makes your job easier or less interesting?
Less interesting, I'd say.
It's crazy. There's so many games. I was say there's so many games you can follow a winning and a losing team in the same week.
Yeah. But you know what? All three of those games were fun games to be at, fun games to watch. None more so than a Saturday night at the Bell Center, because that crowd was on fire, both sides. Really fun atmosphere.
Was it your question that led to the Willie Nylander? What's the big deal?
No, that wasn't mine.
Well, that's one of the few that you don't ask, because you always find a way to get yourself in trouble.
But I do love this guy, man. Like, he is a fun guy to cover because he hardly says anything. It's usually one or two sentences tops, but so often those sentences are quotable. So it helps us with our job. But you know what? He flipped it in reverse. Like, he says it's no big deal when they lost 3, and he said the same thing after last night's win. He's like, it's only 3 games. I think, being in the league a while now, he has better perspective than most. He's not riding the roller coaster. And I think for sure us media types do, because, we got to live in the news day, right? And a lot of fans, I know Sam is guilty of this. They ride it, right?
Yeah.
But but a guy like Nylander, I think this deep in his career, especially, he has perspective. He's really just and he can say whatever he wants. He's got the contract security. He's confident in his talent. He's scoring a ton of goals, and I think he really is just thinking big picture and looking at the playoffs.
I was just going to say, and he's got Berube like engaged, almost like Berube's trying to figure him out, not the other way around. That's what usually happens. Your players look behind them and go, "Oh my God, what do I got to do to kind of get this guy to notice me or use me more?" That's like, it's the opposite between those two.
Yeah, well, who has more security? I know Berube just started on the job, but I think Berube is smart enough to realize that this team, and he as a coach trying to win a second cup, he's only going to go so far as these top 3-4 guys are going to go. So he's trying to figure out, how do I get the most out of them? How do I get them to trust me? And Berube has a really good way about him. Like, he's incredibly positive, especially publicly. Who knows what he's like behind closed doors? Like, if he does rip into guys a little bit more individually. But in talking from guys who played with him in St. Louis, most of them, they loved him. So what really stood out to me is, the Blues come into town, and how many guys were like giving him a hug or having a real chat, like look genuinely happy to reconnect with him. And maybe you say, hey, they want a cup together. Of course, like he's always going to be, they're going to be bonded for life because their names are etched into that thing under 2019. But the way they spoke about him, guys like Shen and stuff, you got a real sense that they bonded with their coach. And I think that's what he's trying to do here. And he's just, lauds Nylander with praise, doesn't rip him when he went through that slump. And I think that's smart. And I wonder if it's part of his strategy coming into this too.
Luke, when you watch these games, there's a lot of games in an NHL regular season where the fellas got the malaise, and I'm not talking about the Leafs. I'm talking about the NHL schedule. It's condensed. It's busy. There's not always the same emotion. Do you feel sometimes grateful to cover a team where there is talent like the Leafs have, and they can turn it on like that? Like, games are kind of never out of reach. Like, thinking about that Montreal game, playing against the Lightning, Boston on January 4th. Like, this team really does have an ability that I don't know if we're all doing this show in 10 years from now, we'll have the luxury of getting to watch performances like we've seen lately.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Justin, because, you can fall into the trap of saying nothing matters till playoffs. And that's true when it comes to their legacy or maybe how they go down in history. Like, there is a great risk of us looking back and them looking back, more importantly, and saying, man, they really could have had something, but it was a bit mismanaged or they didn't show up in the right times. And it could go down as one of the most talented collection of players to not get it done. But the flip side is the ride is pretty entertaining. Like, nights like Saturday, that is a fun night where you're like, this is a cool job I have.
Yeah.
Any fan that was in that building that night is probably like, I would have paid double for that ticket. The highs and lows, the highlights, the theater, even little things like Jack Guy waving off Reeves. Like, it's good theater, and the energy in the building in those big games. So, there's still like moments, whether it's a Willie breakaway or a Matthews trying to Michigan. Like, there's still things that happen with this team that, if you're in that mushy middle, you're not getting a lot of fun nights at the rink.
I'm confused. So there is value in 82 games during the regular season?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
What is going on with you?
Well, I'm saying there is. You have to enjoy the ride and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And there should be value. Like look at the McCabe Rielly pairing, right? That there's value in the coach trying to figure out if something else works, because he's already checked the box of, I have a real shutdown pair in Tanev and McCabe, but it's come a little bit at the expense of my other couple pairings. So can I get something else going? So there's value in experimentation too, I would say.
His minutes were up last night. I think Morgan got back up towards 20. How much behind the scenes do you think there is a focus on getting Morgan going outside of just changing the pairs up?
Well, I think there is, for sure. I mean, the best example is probably looking at the pairs, because they've tried almost everyone with them. What I'm curious about is, do they go external? Like they've done it in the past with Luke Shen and Ilya Lyubushkin twice. And Philip Myers, like, can you guys envision 3-4 rounds with Philip Myers as his partner? I can't.
No.
So do they go external and try to look for help, even though their primary target, and I think it should be their primary target, is a 3C that can hopefully play 2C in a pinch. But do they spend the assets and try to get a better partner for Rielly and help him out of this? And really, that's what it is. It's like they're giving this guy, they're working with him, right? Instead of just putting him on blast and saying he needs to be better. We haven't heard any of that. If anything, it's like he's being a good team guy. He's taking his demotion off the power play in stride. He's going to do everything for the team. And now maybe it's the team trying to pay him back with trying to get him going.
Speaking of getting guys going, last night Max Domi plays, I think it was 11 minutes, 3 goals on the season. There's an article in the Athletic right now by the excellent Harman Dial and Chris Johnson that says 10 under the radar trade candidates. They're falling out of favor. Max Domi's on the list. He's a guy right now who, is struggling to find a clear role with this team. If he's not top 6 and he's not a defensive specialist and he doesn't kill penalties, what's the status of Domi? We know that he can slot up and down the lineup, but it hasn't been great so far this year.
No, it hasn't been great. I mean, he has as many goals as he has years left on this deal, too.
Right.
3.
Right.
And I know he's primarily a facilitator, but, it's got to be a little bit humbling when you're an important division rival game like Saturdays and you get your spot taken over on Nylander's line by Pontus Holmberg, who was recently a healthy scratch for a bunch of games. And you're supposed to be, if not core adjacent, like tier 2 Maple Leaf. Like, we made a commitment to you in the off season. They want him to shoot more. They want him to play more in middle ice and not be stuck on the perimeter. I think he's fought confidence. He's never admitted that to us, but just the body language. I think he's fighting confidence. You can tell by his ice time that there's been too many nights that Berube hasn't liked his game. He's had some bad turnovers in his own end. It's been a struggle. And the irony is he's never had so much security. Like, this is his longest commitment he's gotten from a team ever in his whole NHL career, longer even than his entry level at 3 years. So they need to make it work. I mean, sure, maybe he's a trade candidate. I just don't know what team, an opposing team that is out there saying we need Max Domi right now. I just don't know what you're going to get from him. Yeah, I feel like you'd be trading him at low value.
Yeah. No, it would, Luke, it would have to be part of a bigger puzzle, a bigger picture, meaning money in, money out.
Right.
And he makes significant money, whereas that if you were going to move him, you'd move him with also pieces that are enough for another team to say, I'll take on that contract. And that's the way it would work probably when you're still dealing with a team that wants to get a centerman. And to your point earlier, maybe a defenseman. So, like, to me, I look at this Eastern Conference, Luke, and I go, like, I get it that there's been a build-up up until this moment and a lot of disappointments, but just played a team that scared me in the past, and we beat them again. A Florida team that isn't nearly as strong on the blue line that they were when they won the Stanley Cup, and I'm pushing my chips in this year, man.
And they beat Boston the last 2 times they played them too.
Like, this is the year.
It's not as scary. I agree with you, Nick, in that the East seems decidedly like the much weaker conference. Their goaltending hasn't been this good in decades. I agree with that. I agree with that notion. I just wonder, I think Trey Living should be willing to be bold. In his meetings with us, I haven't got the sense, and maybe he's just tempering expectations, but I haven't got the sense that he's willing to use one of his 3 big pieces, because I think there's only 3 pieces.
He has to.
Minton, Cowan. That's like the 26th first, Minton or Cowan. What else does he have that people really want?
Well, depending how big of a piece you want, you may have to pick one. All right, Luke, thanks for joining us, pal. We really appreciate it as always.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Luke.
Luke Fox, sportsnet.ca. Boys, that's another thing I wanted to say earlier, and I didn't get around to it. But
No, I interrupt too much, but
yeah, you gotta look at this East and go, right now, if you were to pick an odds-on favorite to come out of the East in the Stanley Cup Final, I know Washington's Washington, and they've had a heck of a season, but that Metro, right?
Yeah.
I'm Toronto. Maybe Florida, you're still going.
Yeah, you got to beat good teams every year, right? There's not a year is going to be no good teams.
Outside of that, like the Leafs are right there.
They're right there.
So just know that you're okay, but you can get a lot better here and deeper. Like Tavares out again reminds you of Matthews and then Holmberg. Okay, raise your hands. Who likes that going in to try to win 3 rounds if Tavares gets lost with another injury in the spring?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, no, you need better. You need better. So Domi has a no trade to 13 teams, so he can be traded to 19 teams, according to my math. You could see that as a possibility, eh? It's a long way off, but
you're not trading him for 1-for-1 anywhere.
Right. You're not trading him to trade him.
Yeah,
You're trading him if you think you can improve.
And I personally, I don't think he's going.
No.
I don't see it unless you have to move money out to bring in a big contract in. And teams would be in.
You got to play him with good players. Like, how do we watched Sheldon Keefe figure it out last year, and now we're watching another coach try to figure it out. You put him on the third line with not great players, you lose him. You put him on a good line with the good players, he's good. Like, how many times do we have to do this?
Yeah, but then you've got a guy who you're propping up.
I agree.
You know, and it's like with Nylander, you put him with Bobby McMahon and Pontus Holmberg, and that line's dynamite.
I agree.
You know?
I totally agree with this, but we know what makes him good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks to Luke Fox, who just joined us moments ago. Plenty to still get into in the National Hour. Besides the Vancouver Canucks story, that won't go away. Life without Austin Matthews. For not 2 games, which both Sammy and I said no-brainer, but 2-3, okay, we get it.
That's it, eh? From you?
Well, we're going to commercial break.
Okay.
I'll get much deeper into my thoughts
All right.
on Connor McDavid. And also Steve Valiquette, who's done always a terrific job, CEO of ClearSight Analytics. We'll get his thoughts on what he sees around the National Hockey League. Always an entertaining segment. Don't go away. We're back after these words. It's the National Hour on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, and in for Jake the Snake Schultz, Jen Rolnick. I added that myself, Sammy.
You got it, buddy.
What a pro. What a pro.
How are you guys?
Doing good. Looking forward to getting your take on some suspensions.
It's nice going out of our studio every day. We were just talking about this. Days are getting longer, boys.
Oh, yeah.
It's freezing cold today, but it's so much lighter outside now than it was. It's just it's a bit of positivity for your Tuesday.
Sunset is 32 minutes later than it was just a month ago.
That long.
For real.
So now you could sneak in like 14 holes
Buddy, you want to play golf today? I'm good.
instead of 9 or 10.
Yeah, we're getting there. Can almost fit in 18. We're getting there.
All right. Well, listen, a lot of talk yesterday about the suspensions. It seemed like they had 2 suspensions yesterday, and one of the calls didn't start till about 3:30 or 4 o'clock Eastern. So it just felt like it was longer. Maybe it was just longer. It felt longer because it happened to be about the most electrifying player on the
Sports
planet
entertainment.
in Connor McDavid. But give me your early thoughts on 3 games.
Well, I think it's too much by a game, but I also don't view that as a major crisis. The McDavid thing is undeniably influenced by history. Like the Myers one is much worse to me. He's got more time to see him. It seems more premeditated. It's just a clear make a decision on it. The McDavid one is in the midst of a scrap, but he's got history, right? He's been suspended. He's been fined. He recently had a whoopsie that was close, so I think they gave him the extra game for that. Myers hadn't been suspended for over 10 years. I think that plays worse, so he gets 3 games. Here we are, but I do see the world blowing up about it. Edmonton, the state of it, or the province of Alberta is mad.
All right. You want a quick thought before we go to Steve Valiquette?
I can't believe they suspended McDavid for 3 games. That's it. Like you can go to Valiquette. That's my thought. Can't
All
believe
right.
it.
Let's welcome him in every Tuesday. A lot of fun with our next guest, Steve Valiquette, CEO of Clearsight Analytics. Also does a great job covering the New York Rangers for MSG. And we're going to get into a ton of analytics, numbers, percentages. But what was your thought on 3 games for Connor McDavid?
You know what, boys? I've been listening to your feedback on it, and I agree with you guys, what you talked about yesterday. 3 games for a clean shot to the face. I mean, move on, right?
That's refreshing. That's refreshing, I'll be honest, Vally. I just know that there's some people in Edmonton today who are saying that, McDavid shouldn't attend some NHL functions as a protest, or that, Oilers people are very upset. It's a joke. It embarrasses the league. It's like, relax.
No, I guess I don't have any opinion on that except it just looked clean to me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
It is a
that's
shame we're not
next.
going to get Vancouver, Edmonton with, all the bodies. That sucks, but.
Well, you know what, Bourne? The same thing happened when Rempe was suspended earlier here from the Rangers. His suspension went 1 game beyond Dallas coming back here because it was on Heiskanen, and that was done purposely.
Yeah.
And I know that. And so they do that, and that's a thing.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, I love talking goaltenders. I was never big on conversations with goaltenders until you showed up on our show. I got to be honest with you.
You didn't sit in the corner with Glenn Healy? Come on, the guy's hysterical.
No, I didn't. But we've seen some goalies go down this year, and we've seen relative unknowns kind of rise. And I use the term playing with house money, and maybe there's a level of only place to go is up when it comes to their attitudes of coming into a league where it could be overwhelming. But we're seeing a lot of success around the league with goalies we've never heard of all of a sudden becoming key components this season.
And you know what, Kyper, there's more coming. And it's getting interesting in the AHL. It's a really good year for the minors. I remember when I was there, Jim Schoenfeld brought me aside and said, nobody in the NHL gets excited to see a 914 in the AHL, but when you're a 930, you get called up. And I'm seeing a lot of 930s, a lot of high 920s. And look, the Rangers actually have a guy in Dylan Garand. You might not have heard a lot about him, but I think he's coming. He's close. He'll probably get games at some point this year. Kosa in Detroit, you guys have surely heard of. Devin Cooley has been playing so well, and he's Calgary Wranglers. And I've heard that this guy at 6'5" moves as well as Dustin Wolf. So can you
Jeez.
imagine if now they have, because Wolf is still keeping it. His pace has been unbelievable and consistent. A funny one, too, that's really come up is Brendan Halverson. If you guys have heard or remember hearing that name.
Yes.
He was a second-round pick.
Got to be
by the
older now,
Rangers.
doesn't he?
Yeah, well, a lot of people didn't even think he was still playing, Bourne.
Yeah.
And he's been really one of the top guys in the American League all year. He's in Syracuse. He hasn't signed yet. He's on an AHL only deal, but I think somebody's going to, give him an opportunity here at some point. He's interesting too because he was drafted in 2014 by the Rangers in the second round. In the same draft, the Rangers took Igor Shesterkin in the fourth round. And you remember when we were on one show last year where I was telling you about how I was interviewing Henrik for his retirement, and one of my questions was, did you know the name of the guy that was drafted before you in the same draft by the Rangers in 2000?
Right.
And he had no idea what his name was. Brandon Snee is the guy's name.
Yeah.
And he was drafted in the fifth round when Henrik was in the seventh round, same draft by the Rangers. So that's twice the Rangers have gotten cornerstone goalies, and they were actually the second guy taken in their same draft, which is just wild.
So
go ahead.
Just one thought, Vally, just in terms of all the guys that you're mentioning and, the attention that they may be getting now. Once upon a time, it was like you don't draft goalies in the first round, right? Because they just don't hold the same value as a defenseman or a forward here. Is there value now? Is the pendulum starting to swing where there's true value outside of like no-brain blue chip prospect goalies? Or are all the guys that you mentioned still, let's take a flyer on them?
Yeah, it's more of a flyer. It's not, you know what it's not, Kyper? It's not Kypreos going from San Jose to Calgary, in the early 2000s. It's not one of those where he's going to just break loose and just dominate. But, as far as goalies going in the first round, I don't think it changes because there's still too much volatility with development. And it always comes down to player development. Mackenzie Skapski, he's doing a great job in Calgary's farm. And this is the second guy that's come through now, if indeed Devin Cooley gets an opportunity there in Calgary. But you know what, guys? You never know with goalies. And I have a funny one because my coach, when I played for the Erie Otters, Dale Dunbar, I was at the end of my season for the Lowell Lock Monsters AHL, and he asked me to come down to just really talk to a kid across the street from him that was thinking about opting into the NHL draft. And I sat in their living room and I talked to mom and dad, talked to the player, and didn't think anything of it. Went for a dinner with my old coach, had a few beers, went home. And sure enough, the NHL draft 2 months later, I'm at a wedding for a buddy, and I turn on the NHL draft, and Roberto Luongo, that was ahead of me in the pecking order, gets traded to Florida. A few minutes later, Kevin Weeks, who was ahead of me in the pecking order in Long Island, gets traded to Tampa Bay. I just went from a number 3 to a number 1 in my mind, right? And then you know what happens next? Gary Bettman stands up, he announces a trade, and the New York Islanders select Rick DiPietro first overall. And guess what? That was the kid that I talked into going into the draft at his house. So
No way.
Wow.
That's
yes.
wild.
And so I called Dale Dunbar after him. Hey, Dunner, what's up, man? The guy, we just took a guy first overall. That's the kid that I talked into going into the draft.
Oh my gosh.
Wild, right?
Great
and then
story.
You know what happened, Kyper, I went down because he wasn't ready to go right off the bat. Then they signed Van Viesbroek.
Yeah.
And then they signed Chris Terreri. Wade Flaherty, buddy, I went from number 1 to 5.
That's great.
Yeah, so the draft's a wild thing. Ricky and I became friends, and nothing for it. But you know what? It is definitely right now what I'm seeing is a lot of good growth in the NHL. But the one thing preparing for this Ottawa Ranger game, and Marilinen's going to be in the net tonight for Ottawa. Yeah. It's like saying that, we've spoken about how the league gets a book on you, and goalies that are really good, they love the structure of the NHL because everybody's where they're supposed to be. And I'm sure you felt that as a player, Kyper, going from the American League to the NHL. Everybody's just in their spots. It becomes predictable. Structure's there. And that's really what you crave as a goalie, is just structure. But you also see 1% of the things you've never seen before. And I can give you an example going back to my Islander days. One of my first games was against Pittsburgh. And to my left, off the left post, was Yager. And he collected the puck with his back to me. He's a lefty. He got it on his backhand, and he went net front high corner on me over my blocker side, and I'm like sitting in the net like, what the hell was that? Like, what was that?
Yeah.
And all I saw was him take the glove off, and he did the salute, because that was the year it was the slogan for the NHL commercial, hottest game, coolest game on ice, is something like that. And I saw it all summer long where he was saluting. I was the goalie that he scored on. My buddies back home loved it. But that's the hard part about being a goalie, I think, in the NHL. Sometimes you get a little comfortable with how good it feels, and then you get surprised by something that you just never seen before.
I was thinking of that Ovechkin overtime winner. I think it was against maybe Miralainen, and it was Ottawa's goaltender, but it's a rolling puck, and he hits it off the toe of his stick, and it's just gone. Top corner rolling puck. Yeah. I believe in the American League, you're not seeing a lot of that. So
you're not seeing it. And you know what? It's pretty wild. And to get to your first part of the question there, Kyper, about the injuries and stuff and what's happening and why these young guys are getting opportunities. So I did a bunch of research, and I think that this goes back to when I was on with you guys a couple of years ago. And I remember did some research on how many games on average is Matt Murray getting injured on. And at the time it was 17 games. He had an injury every 17 games. So I went back and I looked at Allmark. And Allmark has had 12 injuries since 2018. So over his 249 starts, it's like he's getting injured once every 21 starts. And you know, like there's certainly injuries to happen, but there's also injuries that I always question whether it's preparedness or if it's taking care of yourself after the game, muscle development. Soft tissue injuries aren't ones that I think, and I remember saying this once before to you guys too, that Matt Nickel brought that up to me, and he said, look, inexcusable to have soft tissue injuries at this day and age with the maintenance and care that we get. But Joseph Wall, I went and did the same exercise for him. He's won every 14 games. Stolar's won every 31 games. Demko won every 25 games. So, you know, there's definitely, I think, buyer beware when you're making moves or you're going all in with one guy. And I can see why. And you got to know that the Rangers, Islanders, Leafs, everybody's doing this type of homework before signing a guy to a big deal or making a trade.
Mm-hmm. Who's the healthiest? I look at Bobrovsky, and he is notorious for fitness, and like he's a machine. He must be 35 years old, 36 years old now, and there was a time, Kyper. He had multiple seasons end for his groin. And there was I heard a lot, I don't know how much of it was true, but I heard that some of the Russian goalies actually overtrained their groin areas so that they were having issues with micro tears, almost like saying they had a small tear all off season that would always go during the season. Of course, I played there for 2 years, and I saw some radical training from the goalies and players. I played with Varlamov there. And, you know, I just always felt like, too much. And, you know, of course, they had different things off the ice that helped them recover, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you don't overtrain your groin. So quick question about Brandon Halverson, you mentioned, is a guy who's doing well in the American League. I just want to go ahead and call him to the Penguins, knowing absolutely nothing, but he played for Kyle Dubas. I know that because Dubas used to talk about him a lot.
Interesting.
Dubas, I think every player who played in the Sioux, who now is in the NHL, played for Dubas at one point. So, and I want to ask you about the Pittsburgh goaltending situation. Jari has been waived. Nedeljkovic is apparently an offensive dynamo. You know, could there be a way for them to get back in this playoff run if Nedeljkovic is legit, or do you think they need to go find someone else to help them?
I think that the hardest thing to get stars to do is to buy into playing defense. And until they have team defense, Bourne, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
The environments are just too hard. Like, you know what? This really goes into a bunch of research I did for this game, because Ottawa is a very good net front team, screens. And one of the first stats that was ever brought to my attention was from our goalie coach, Benoit Allaire. And what Benny would always bring up, he'd bring in his Bristol boards and stuff like that, his dry erase, and show Henrik and I where we were within the league for save percentage and certain stats. And I think that some of that sunk in with me. So when I, you know, post-retirement got into a stats company, I think part of that was because I bought into it as a player. One of his go-to stats, guys, was 65% of all goals come off of screens, deflections, broken plays, rebounds. So net front. and a lot of net front has to be followed up in layers. And so, the one thing that's really changed this year in the NHL and why save percentage is down is that there are fewer shots being taken from the points and outside the slot area where the goalies are unscreened. So did a bunch of work in our company today for this. 21% decrease in shots from clear-sighted shots from the points. Clear sight on the perimeters, so on the wall perimeters, clear sight, 28% decrease of those shots this season. Clear-sighted shots even from the slot area, 16% decrease. So these are all goalies, really warm-up shots, the ones they really want to just see and feel, get more than half of a second of time on. Now, increase on shots, the hard ones, deflections in the air, 42% increase. And this is, I should have said, this is all over the last 5 years. Screened deflections, the ones that go in really more than breakaways, 44% increase. And it's really the death of the slap shot and the sifter that's getting through. I'm watching the Rangers power play the other night, guys. They have 3 quarterbacks. They've got Fox, Panarin, and Zibanejad, and all they're doing is sifting it through in Kreider's net front. There's nothing else going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to get one guy's trying to get to the middle. And, I'm watching Kreider net front against Montreal on Sunday, and Zibanejad being a righty, he goes to the middle of the ice. And what's pretty neat is, you get a sense these guys know what they're doing, because the goaltender, Dobish in this case, he's looking over Kreider's right shoulder, and he's got a clear view of the puck. But because Zibanejad's a righty, as soon as he gets over the midline of the ice, is really a transition time now. Dobish has got to go from right shoulder to left shoulder, and during that movement, the puck's delivered. He doesn't see it. And there's nothing you can do there. I'm sorry, you're going to get beat. There's like an 8-foot blind spot there where you cannot see the puck. So I'm going through Ottawa because, again, preparing for this game tonight, Ottawa has a really good team depth-wise screening the goalie. And I'll tie this into Toronto. I think you guys are going to find this interesting. So Ottawa has 7 players with 10 or more screens this year, where they've been in front screening the goalie. Their teammates have delivered the puck on net. So they're 4th in total screens in the NHL with 167. They're 3rd in quality, because a layered screen is better than just one guy there. They've got really good quality. Tkachuk, 30 screens this year, where he's been in front of the goaltender, where the goalie's put out a rebound, broken play, or you've been scored on clean. Batherson's 2nd with 16 with Ridley Gregg. Norris 14, Gaudette 11, Amadio 10, Giroux 10. Nyes, go to Toronto. Nyes has 31. He's been in front of the net 6 times where the Leafs have scored this year, but there's nobody else. Pacioretty has 8. Tavares has 5. How does Tavares have 5? He had 26 last year, and he had 36 2 years ago. Is this noticeable to you guys?
Not the Tavares one so much, but I am surprised. I'm not surprised that there's no one else other than the names you mentioned.
Yeah,
they're kind of a rush team right now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not too many guys outside of that hang in there and battle that
It's something
area.
McMahon could do better. He could be more of a net front guy. He's big and strong.
It's such a good point, because Jimmy Vesey's got 2 screens. And I'm like, why have 2 screens if you're a bubble guy?
Yeah.
It's one of the easiest things you can add to your game, right? Just get in front of the goalie. And, another thing I'm thinking about too, when I'm watching all these clips, and Sanderson's really good there for Ottawa, getting it through. Should shots really be blocked from the point right now? And hear me out here. If you're a defenseman and you see somebody's in the shooting lane, so the 4x6 is covered for the net. Well, off to the left side of the net is 6 feet between the beginning of the trapezoid and the goalie's right post. And you could also say that there's 6 feet on the right side of the net between the goaltender's left post and the beginning of the trapezoid. So you just funnel pucks in there. You're either going to hit traffic or the pile of players that's net front, or it's coming off the end boards. And when that goalie's coming down like a ton of bricks, he's loose and he's trying to find it. I don't really think that D should have that much trouble, especially with the sifter trying to get it through. And I think that some teams, Colorado's one that really comes to mind, because they have a smaller D core. They don't box out, and they try to just get front pucks. They're trying to always try and knock down pucks, and it's a little more like Plinko for them. But there's definitely a balance here. And, you know, the last thing on this that I can't get out of my mind is last year I had a meeting with Thomas Tatar, and he was telling me that when he was playing in Detroit with Lidstrom, he said, I always felt safe being net front because he always had his head up and everything was coming through and I was able to get out of the way. But sometimes our D have their head down and their bombs away, and I feel like I'm going to get killed there. So, you know, I cover the Rangers and I watch every shot they take closely, but I do feel safe net front if I am screening for Zibanejad and Fox, but not so safe if I'm screening for Panarin because he hits you high and wild sometimes.
You're watching and listening to Steve Valiquette, analyst for the New York Rangers on MSG and CEO of Clear Sight Analytics. So I got to ask you about scoring a goal on the ice. And how many have we seen? How many have you seen? I'm watching the first goal Austin Matthews scores last night on Johansson.
Yep.
And listen, I can only imagine how intimidating that is watching a guy 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds coming at you a gazillion miles an hour, and it's just you. And then, you know, it's a hard shot, but it's along the ice. And once upon a time, I thought anytime a goalie doesn't have his paddle down or able to seal that up, it's just a bad goal. Is it still a bad goal?
It's a great question. And you know what, Kyper, I was thinking about it because listening to you after we got off our last show together, you said that was your go-to spot. You were a 5-hole shooter.
Yeah.
You know, and I worked with Mike Bossy for my first 2 years on the TV side. And wow, did we disagree at first. You know, we were all over each other. He didn't like the east to west. He thought everything should be a 5-hole shot. And we actually became really close, and he would lean on me. And he actually got really into the data, which was really neat. It was a great experience for me. And rest in peace, Mike. We loved you. And you know what? One thing that I thought was really neat about that experience was just always paying attention to what the shooter said. And one thing that was brought to my attention, this is years ago because Austin was just coming into the league. Well, one of his former teammates, Ryan Shannon, that used to play for Ottawa, is the head coach for the Taft high school team, a high school team that I work with regularly. I was on the ice with him, and he was telling me about Austin coming over here, how terrific he was. They played together when Austin was playing in Switzerland. He told me that Austin told him in practice once to look for the space between the goalie's right skate and the heel of the stick. He believed that was the glitch. Like there's a glitch spot right there that
there's a tiny triangle there.
Yep.
That little triangle. And you know what? What we were talking about last week does kind of tie into this because if a goalie uses too long of a stick, he's got a bigger triangle there, Kyper. And Austin's shot last night was at the triangle. So what I thought was interesting, because after listening to you talk about where on the net you'd like to shoot, I'm wondering, this is an easy one for me. I've got a nice graphic, a silhouette of a goalie here to see what types of shots are beating goalies most frequently this year. So there's a 20% chance to beat a goalie over the glove in the NHL. It's still the best chance to score, high glove. And the goalies in the NHL this year have an .803 save percentage, high glove. The second best place to shoot is high blocker, .840 save percentage in the NHL for the goalies this year. But the third best place to shoot is 5-hole, .883 save percentage for goalies this year. Under the blocker, .896. Under the glove, .894. But there are virtually no goals going in under a goalie's pad if it's not 5-hole. So I'm watching the Rangers every night, and they've had a really bad shooting percentage season. They get a wild amount of scoring chances. I don't know if you guys got to see any of the game. The Rangers played Montreal on Sunday. They allowed 17 high dangers.
It was open. It was run and gun.
And gun. Like Kyper, 0D. D. Yeah. And so again, I'm watching these guys play, but oftentimes the Rangers, one-timer from the slot, hammering it on the ice away from the 5-hole. It's almost like saying it's not even a scoring chance. When I look at the data, goalies on the ice, blocker side, on the ice, .966 save percentage. On the ice, glove side, .952. Goals aren't going under the pads. They go under the 5-hole, but mostly to the glitch spot.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a Bobby McMahon breakaway right after that, and he tried to put it in the exact same spot. I don't often think guys have time to take the scout in on goaltenders to actually say, hey, clean look, here's where they tell me to shoot it. But that made me think they had some sort of book on Johansson that, okay, this is a guy, this is a place we can shoot on this guy.
I think they're shooting on Woll still blocker too, boys. Every time I watch, I feel like, they had another one again. Tampa Bay had one. Kind of threw a screen, though, blocker side.
Well, Point beat him there, but it didn't go in last night, too, off the crossbar.
Okay. And there was also one against Montreal, breakaway, low blocker. But
Right.
I think he's using too much stick. I'd love to see Joseph Woll come down on his stick.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. The, you look around the NHL, and Kip started the show talking about goaltenders who are, new to the scene, who are pretty awesome, having great years. Who among these guys having success do you think is sustainable? Like Dostal in Anaheim has been very good. Logan Thompson's doing a great job. This Dobish is new. Like, do you see any of these new guys and go, that's a guy that's probably it's gonna work for them long term?
Yeah, I still believe in Wolf the most. And
You do?
And I do. Yeah. After we got off after our last show, I went right to see about the rebounds with the smaller goalies. And I had it written down. Yeah. Saros, Wolf, Mrazek, Vasilevsky, but Wolf's at the top of like every list. I don't even see a weak spot in him. I've never seen anybody skate this well. And I think it comes back to the fact that he's willing to play deep. I can't emphasize this enough. It takes so much courage to play deep in the net. It doesn't take courage to rush out and charge. It doesn't. It takes courage to sit in there and let it come. And the one thing that we've been talking about a lot in this region is that when Shesterkin gets himself out in the white paint and kind of gets lost out there, he gets bound up into traffic. He also just gets too aggressive, but I feel like sometimes he goes there because he's trying to get like one more save than he believes he can make. When he plays his best, he plays on the old crease line. In 1986, that's when the crease went from rectangle to the arch up front. And that arch added 4 feet. So when I was a youngster, a lot of the older goalie coaches would always tell me to get to the top of the crease, get to the top of the crease. And I don't know if they realized at that time that it was 4 more feet they were asking me to get out there. And then when I'd get lost in the white ice, Bourne, I felt like as a big guy, I'm just swimming.
Sure.
And, I did a lot of swimming in the OHL. And when I watch Wolf, for his size and the speed and how dynamic he is as a skater, he plays deep. He plays on the old crease line. And he's beating every pass, and he presses a little bit, but he doesn't get into the white ice. He'll go heels on the old crease line, but he plays there, and he's safe, and he's not getting him mixed up into traffic. And I just think he's the most consistent goaltender of the bunch. And I think the book on him is going to be very difficult to solve.
Vally, in saying that, for all our listeners at 650 in Vancouver and 960 Sportsnet in Calgary, we assume Colorado's, heading north in the standings, and that really leaves, in my opinion, Calgary and Vancouver for a wild card spot. Is Wolf the advantage to Calgary in a fight with Vancouver over Demko at this point?
Big time. Healthy Demko, no. But not healthy Demko with everything that's going big time. And I love watching Calgary play. They play the game hard. I love watching Calgary play. Like, that's a team I actually root for because they're having success based on the pillars of what I believe still matters in the game. So they get my rooting interest, and I think that's important too. They've really built something there, and I hope they kind of push. You don't have to start over and end up like a handful of teams that have missed the playoffs for 10 plus years. I think they should just keep pushing forward with what they're doing with their development staff and keep going for it because they've got something special they're building there. And the players, you guys know how it is. You start your career, you've got excitement through the roof. You go through an entitlement phase where you want to get your paychecks, and then there's the ending. And those are the 3 E's to hockey. And right now they have a lot of players in that excitement phase, and they have maybe the right mix of players that are near the end. and not too many entitled players there. You know, it seems like they got a really good thing going. Good chemistry. To me, that's chemistry. Those 3 E's.
Yeah, we anticipate a wild finish for the wild card in the West. Valley, always great stuff, man, having you on. Thanks for doing this.
Too bad we didn't have any mom jokes today. Next time, boys.
Thanks, Vally. Great stuff, buddy.
See you guys.
Hey, hold on for a second. Or is he go? So, like, you know, I don't know how to say this, but like, I got calls from scouts after saying, "Oh, I heard you talking about Valley's mom, you know, during your program last week." And one goes, "Yeah, she was a real looker."
Oh, my good God. What are we doing here?
So,
how did I end up as an 8th rounder then?
Valley, like, you know, what's going on there, you know?
No, so I used to get teased, boys, like you wouldn't believe. So I didn't make AAA until I was 14. I played for the Richmond Hill Kings. If anybody picks this up, and I swear the guys were teasing me that they just gave me the backup job at that time because my mom was hot. And my dad, so my parents, they had me when they were young. They were 19 years old, right? And Kyper, my dad had like the mustache. So the guys at the goalie school, like Grex and everybody, they would call him Ravishing Rick Rude. And then my mom would roll in there. She got high heels, mini skirt. I'm just like, oh man,
Oh,
I feel
boy.
myself turning red just reliving it.
We're gonna have to
business.
we're gonna have to rename this segment After Hours with Steve Valiquette.
Oh yeah. I've got
All right,
stories
pal.
for days.
Enjoy the
That's
rest
for
of your
sure.
night. Thanks for doing this.
All right, see you, boys.
Thanks, Vally.
Oh, that's too funny.
That is funny. What a world. All right.
Screens thing was fascinating.
Yeah.
Wonder why the Leafs power play sucked all year.
Could use a couple of bodies in front.
Game time?
Yes. Do you want to do it now or post break?
Let's do it now.
All right.
It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app, latest odds, and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Just looking at some of the games for tonight, some good ones. Looking at the game Valley was just talking about there, the Rangers hosting the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa going to that game as a plus 110 underdog in New York. I think there's some value there with the Sens. Tampa in Montreal on the second half of back-to-back with their starting goalie that they hid from the Toronto Maple Leafs going up against the Montreal Canadiens. They are minus 150 at the Bell Center. Habs plus 125 on the other side of the money line. The Edmonton Oilers, sans Connor McDavid, hosting Ovechkin tonight. I don't know if you saw what Ovechkin said. He said, sucks for him, good for us.
Yeah. That's the extent of what you need to say.
Love that. The Edmonton Oilers still heavy faves tonight, minus 155 on the money line. Washington plus 130 heading in there. And the other Canadian team in action, the Vancouver Canucks, who we've spent a lot of time talking about, hosting the Buffalo Sabres tonight. The Vancouver Canucks minus 185 minus 185 favorites on home ice. What could go wrong?
Ooh,
that one?
don't touch that.
Anyways,
don't bet that one. Bet
that
Buffalo.
was game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app, latest odds, and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
I'd like to clarify, I said bet Buffalo because their odds are going to be greater. Not that I think that they're a superior team, but
Sabres have had a couple sneaky good wins recently.
they're
Beat Carolina.
fine. Buddy, Sabres being last in the East is shocking to me. They have some good players.
Don't lose 13 in a row.
Shouldn't lose 13.
That hurts your chances.
It affects them greatly.
Just when you think you're getting some confidence, though, like you get like the Montreal Canadiens. How do you give up 7 goals in a row Saturday night? Take the air out of a
and then the next day
balloon.
they
Yes.
win an OT versus the Rangers on a back-to-back. It's
Line A scores, that building's going nuts. Like,
they love Line A.
that's what a lower bullshit.
You know what is a huge turnaround there? Getting that Carrier
Yeah, Carrier.
from Nashville has like changed their D. He's like he's been really solid and reliable and given them a pair they can trust. Line is another scoring threat. All of a sudden, Dobish is good. They got better at every position. All of a sudden, you win some games.
Okay, we'll see how that shapes out. So what do we have? We got 8 games on tap tonight. We'll get into a few of them. Plus, I want to get your thoughts on Corey Perry and the fallout of course, a 3-game suspension to Connor McDavid. And in terms of where you guys sit with protecting the stars in the game. We'll get into that.
We have a clip from Rick Tocchet that I think he might have been listening to the show yesterday. So.
Oh, geez. Okay.
All right. Plenty more to chew on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. As a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Still plenty of fallout over the suspensions of Connor McDavid and Tyler Myers in Vancouver. 3 games each. Of course, more attention on the really, really good player in this.
Yeah, for sure.
Connor McDavid. And we've got a lot of thoughts going around, not just Edmonton, but the country and the hockey world on whether it was warranted or not. And ultimately, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Big picture, small picture, and every picture in between. So, just revisit your thoughts on, buying a ticket and not going to see Connor McDavid.
Yeah, well, I think this is, people kind of seem to be forgetting here that he has a history, right? He has been fined. He has been suspended. So he has history, and that takes a 2-game suspension to a 3. 2-game is something we've seen for this sort of cross-check, right? Matthews on Dahlin. This is not wildly out of whack with how they would consistently penalize something like this. And I think good for the league to show that, there are no individual rules. I thought the Myers one was a worse cross-check, but he hasn't been suspended or fined in 10 years or something like that. So 3 games each. I mean, I'm not up in arms about it. I know some people, I do think that we need to protect our stars better, which we're going to get into here. But in this case, I don't think the suspension is crazy.
2 is plenty. 3 was a bit overkill.
But again, the history, Sam. Like, it's 2 for
I
the
understand.
play.
I completely understand the history, but at the same time, there's got to be some.
Are we too far back off of Austin Matthews' suspension on Dahlin? Are we too far back?
What does that mean?
It means
too far back. Too far removed from it?
Too far removed.
It's not as relevant.
And was it a 1-game suspension?
2. It was 2.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
with no prior history. So
no prior history.
I
So
totally understand.
Is that the extra game?
I guess. But listen, you go ahead and give your take on it.
No, I'm asking.
I just think that you make, I know you're not supposed to make an exception. You're supposed to protect your star, all this stuff, but it's Connor McDavid. It's 3 full games that you're suspending the best player in the league from. I think 2 is totally fine. I think you do make a bit of an exception if you're the league, in my opinion. They didn't, but I
totally would have been fine with that.
Yes.
For the record. I wouldn't have been, I said 2 yesterday.
Do we have Leon Draisaitl?
We do have Leon Draisaitl on this. Derek, you play that for us?
We'll just get this out of the way, Leon. Obviously, with Connor's 3-game suspension, you saw the way everything kind of went down. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, I don't have much to say towards it. Certainly think 3 games is a little too much for either side. But yeah, I guess we don't overly care about having our best players in the league in the game. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, there's a parting shot to the league.
Yeah,
right.
and
why are you so pissy all the time?
That's his boy, right? Totally on board with.
Yeah,
I like the idea. Go ahead.
Politically correct to include Myers in that because he said both.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I saw Biz on Spit and Chicklets. Up in arms, or the suspension is what it is, and he's being held, and there should be a call, and that's fine. I agree with all of that there should have been a call. 3 is maybe a bit much, maybe not, but to me, I cannot get myself worked up over a suspension that's on the hair of I'm saying 2 and it's 3.
It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right?
Right.
But it matters to them. It matters to the team and McDavid and the person that misses the 3rd game that he bought a ticket for.
Yeah, it
right?
stinks.
It stinks.
It totally stinks. So maybe this should have been 2 then. I want to get worked up here, and I'm struggling.
Do you want to hear Tockett's thoughts? Because I thought Rick Tocchet had a great comment on it today. If we could play Rick Tocchet on it.
I think it's just unfortunate. And it's a tough job. It's a tough job for the referees. It's tough for George Peros. It's all this tough. I just don't like the grandstanding. It's like, well, they protect this and this. It is what it is. I don't want Connor McDavid to get suspended. We're playing him. I mean, honestly, you want to play the best. I mean, he's terrific for a league. He's an unbelievable kid, from what I've been told. The way he works at his game, unreal for the game. It happened. So you deal with it. It's the same thing with Mizey. So, for me, it's it's a tough position for everybody. So it's really hard for everybody to sit in the couch and rip everybody. I have a tough time with that. So a lot of people are grandstanding, ripping their refs. I mean, Russ McCauley is one of the best refs in the league. Okay, there was a hold. A couple of holds there, yeah. Okay, didn't get called for whatever reason. It was like 10 seconds left. You know, there's a missed high stick. Like, we can go back and forth. It's a 3-game suspension, and it is what it is. Like, we got to move on from this. That's what I think.
I'd feel a lot better had an arm gone up there.
I think they might. I think they might have had real Kyper and Bourne on in the training room yesterday. That was like directly at what you said.
What did Kip say that you think he's
well, then he's like, they got to blow it dead. They got to call it. They got to call it.
They should have blown it dead and they should have called it. That's also still true.
But, you know, to his point, oh my gosh, like how many games have we watched where we could say 3 times that in any game at any time over?
Right.
It's
but it's
just
different.
the way
it's the final
our game
30
is.
seconds and it's McDavid. Like it's an obvious,
Yes,
hey, you can't do that.
It is. And some are way more obvious than others.
Yeah.
And include high-profile guys instead of slugs like me back in my day.
I get it.
And this is more attention-seeking, and we get all of that. But at the end of the day, nothing really changes.
And listen, McDavid he's a guy who plays on the edge, and I like the idea. I think Mike Rupp had a tweet that was like, does anyone else love that McDavid did this?
Love it.
And there's lots of people going, definitely. I think his team probably loves it. I think it probably helps him in the long run.
You Corey Perry?
Corey Perry, we don't have on video, but he did have some choice words for the league.
Yeah, he to paraphrase, it's like, why aren't we protecting the superstars? Every other league does it. Patrick Mahomes, LeBron James, go down the list, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm on board with that too. Pontus Holmberg should not draw more penalties than Connor McDavid.
Hold on,
which he has.
You're on board
with protecting the stars
okay.
more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine for you to say that, but
okay.
now you have to follow up and tell me how.
Call penalties against them when they happen.
They do, or at least they think they do, to the best of their abilities.
Right.
So nothing is changing. They already feel like they do,
and they don't. I'm saying, great, you feel that way. Do a better job.
Well, what does better job mean?
Not having McDavid be 232nd in the league in penalties drawn per 60.
We do not agree.
I love that.
There
it's
is
a good drop.
I understand what you're saying, but in their mind, they are not giving anybody any preferential treatment. So a missed call
I'm asking them too.
is just a missed call.
Yeah.
And they won't.
Right.
Because historically, they never have and they never will. So nothing will change.
Right. And I'm asking that to not be the case. If you listen to what they're just talking about other sports, there is a concerted effort to keep these guys on the ice, relevant, important in the biggest moments.
I love football as much as the next guy, but I don't watch it as closely as maybe you do. You tell me now, since they've brought in a new boundary for protecting quarterbacks, has it been better for the league or worse for the league? Because I hear different debates on preferential treatment for quarterbacks. They're the face. They're what sells. Nobody cares about the other players. They're the stars. Protect them. Is that worked out for them well?
I think it's yes.
There's 99 out of the top 100 programs are NFL games.
Yeah,
people love it.
I'm not talking about
the way it
success.
looks.
No, there's some people that still say that it sucks. Bad calls, stupid calls, cost me the game. A flag here because this guy is this far from looking like he's going to be out of bounds, and then he stays in, and I laid off of him because I was scared to take a penalty. That's bad football.
If the players and the other team and the other coaches don't like it, the league is saying, tough beans, we are creating the best product and stars sell.
So
they have the best
you tell
product.
me how the NHL officials now need to create that for Connor McDavid, but they can't create it for anybody else. Tell me.
What do you mean?
How? You just want more calls against them.
McDavid and Matthews and your boy Marner, and they fight through more plays per game than anyone else.
And they will
if you
continue.
call it more often, people will go, God, I can't even put a stick on that guy. They'll have more room. They'll score more goals.
It's a really hard, almost impossible comparison to make to football. Because with Mahomes,
there's no doubt that's true.
But
listen,
go ahead. Connor McDavid or Corey Perry just did it.
Corey Perry's wrong.
Out there.
Yeah, he's wrong. He's wrong. It's a different thing. It's with these, I mean, I watched the football over the weekend, and I wanted to punch a hole in my TV watching the way Patrick Mahomes acted. This guy's flopping all over the place. There's these flashpoint moments where he gets rid of the ball, guys hit him,
because
immediate
he
flag.
buys into I'm the
Yes.
star.
You can't hit me.
Okay?
You can't touch me. And
It sucks.
I completely agree, Kyper, that hockey refereeing,
Yeah.
officiating
You want to turn
is a
McDavid
way
into
different
that?
thing. It's
You
a
wanna-
way different thing.
Very
Yeah,
much
you
so.
want to turn McDavid
Yes.
into Mahomes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our stars are on the ice 1/3 of the game
Hey.
at most.
Hey, here's an idea. Go get a guy, instead of Corey Perry looking at the league and saying, protect our stars, why don't you do it? Or why don't you get one of your teammates to do it? That's the way it's worked the
Yeah,
last
that's the way
100
it's
years.
worked, but it isn't the last 100 years. And what you have when everyone's equal and we protect everyone the same is who's any different from anyone else out there. Our game's biggest problem is the lack of identifiability of our stars. Everyone looks the same. Everyone plays the same. We do have some elite guys. I'm not saying you need to call the rules differently. I'm saying you need to call them consistently. Just because it's McDavid drawing the 6th penalty of the game doesn't mean you don't call it because, well, guys, if I called every time someone took a hook on McDavid, I'd call it all night. We'll call it all night.
Six, I guarantee you won't be legit.
You don't think
six won't be legit. I will suck you in. I will embellish. I will do. If I know that that's my advantage for my team,
It's not an advantage. I'm asking you to call it consistently. Right
It's
now, we
human
ask them
nature.
to fight through more than the other guys.
And we will continue because that's the way we.
Yeah, and we're going to
do it.
continue into a brick wall of declining ratings and popularity.
It's not. That's not the reason why. Okay. It's not the reason why there's declining ratings.
It's amongst a
Okay.
contributing factor to me.
Bad officiating.
No, not protecting our stars, not calling it enough. When McDavid should be first every year.
Sammy, help me out here.
I mean, like we have a thing on Leaf Talk called Ref Talk where we talk about the refs. Like, yeah, they're bad, but they're bad in every sport. Like, I don't know what.
Hockey's so tough to officiate.
I don't watch an Oilers game and be like, boy, Connor's getting an awful whistle tonight. Like, I'm like, oh my God, he's unbelievable. But I know this for a fact. When I watch a Chiefs game and I'm betting against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I have to take into account that the Zebras are going to make a bullcrap call because this guy is the big star and no one can touch him.
Mm-hmm.
The stars are playing the game. They're part of the game. They're part of the physicality. If you want to cross-check somebody in the face, you're going to get hooked a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so like, it's a two-way street.
I love McDavid taking matters
Yes.
in his own hands.
And he got suspended
I
for it
love
because
it.
he cross-checked the guy in the face.
3 games,
He did it.
4 games.
I don't
Guilty
know.
as charged.
Who cares?
And like LeBron
Right?
James,
Shouldn't
really,
be.
Corey? You grab onto LeBron's wrist and he flies out of the gym. Like, we want that? I don't know. Hockey's fine.
I'm gonna guess LeBron sells a couple.
Okay, I got you on my
I
side,
will
Sammy.
completely on your side, Kipper. I am.
All right.
I
That's
am.
okay. It's all right. It happens.
I don't need your help.
I want to mention condolences to the McVie family. Tom McVie passed away. The Boston Bruins put out a statement. I never got to play for Tom, but everybody said what an amazing man, coach he was. I did play against his hockey teams.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Utica when I was in Hershey. I got into a scrum. I sat on the bottom of a pile and bit one of his players. And then he accused me of having rabies.
What a legacy.
Yes.
What a legacy.
Yeah. And he called me
2-game suspension.
He
then.
called me a vampire.
Did you get
too.
suspended?
I did not.
No.
No
They gotta-
cameras.
Yeah.
Can't
No
believe it.
cameras.
You can't suspend a superstar
Right.
like Kipper.
No, it's not good for the game.
So condolences to the McVie family from Count Kypreos.
Absolutely count.
All right. Great show, guys, today.
Yep. One thing we didn't get in is Scott O'Neill called his team horse crap.
Oh, well, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tomorrow. Absolutely. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy your game. And we're back tomorrow on The Real Kyper and Bourne Show.